A major injury shakes up the NFL draft and the NFL. Are Texas and Miami back? We're looking ahead at a ho-hum Week 3 college football slate and more coming up on the Draft Countdown podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Draft Countdown podcast. I'm your co-host, Brian Bossars, joined as always by my co-host, Shane P. Hallam. Shane, we are 224 days, 22 hours, 58 minutes, and 24 seconds away from the 2024 NFL Draft.
And I think we learned a little bit more this past week. And as we start to get closer to conference play, I'm excited to see some of these schools stop playing the cupcake games and get to some of the big games. Week 3 coming up is still kind of a week slate, but week 4, week 5, we're going to really be getting into it.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about week 3 coming up. But first, if you're new to the channel and caught this live on Twitter or on YouTube and you want to subscribe to the channel, please go ahead and do so and hit that notification bell so you get notified when we go live each and every week when we do it. If you have a question that you need answered, feel free to ask it on Twitter or live here in the chat, and we will answer it in the show. Or you can join our Discord server by going to draftcountdown.com. In the top right corner of the search bar, there's a link to join the Discord. Please come on in, have some fun discussions with us live during the games as the games are happening and everything. A lot of discussion going down about our first topic from Monday night happened in the Discord server there, Shane. So that is the big news, and we got to lead with that, right? Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles on the fourth offensive play for the New York Jets Monday night. And I don't want to say that their Super Bowl hopes and dreams are over, but it certainly appears that way.
Yeah, they're over. There's nothing you can do. There's no one you can trade for or sign that's going to make this better at this point. It sucks. I'm not the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan in the world, but I was feeling for Jets fans. They've been through a lot, and like you with the Bengals, like Browns fans, like sometimes I kind of root for some of those teams that have been through the ringer. I think the Jets are one of those teams, so it's really unfortunate that curse continues. I mean, Zach Wilson's not going to lead them there, and for NFL draft purposes, it's big for us because now the Jets, would have moved their first round pick to the Packers had Rodgers stayed healthy. And now that he got hurt, he's not going to meet the snap minimum. That first becomes a second. So the Jets will have their first round pick in the 2024 NFL draft.
And that's another thing we'll talk a little bit about later. But I mean, this now at age 38, an Achilles injury, this has to put Aaron Rodgers, future in question, right? This is not something that you tend to recover from at that age as quickly as you do if he was 28 instead of 38. So now you're looking at his age recover from it at his age 39 season, maybe even into age 40. It's not good. So the Jets now with what could end up being a pick. I mean, I think their defense will be good enough to keep them from just completely crashing to the top of the first round. But, you could be looking at a pick probably anywhere from the 8 to 16 range. And maybe they have to start thinking about that another quarterback.
Yeah, he almost retired this past that's in the cards. So you have to think Achilles injury you're going to rehab from, back from if you're him. So see what happens. If he stays, I think you got to think about the quarterback. Wilson obviously isn't the guy. You're only probably going to have one more year left of him.
So, yeah, Green Bay will now get the Jets' second-round pick in lieu of their first-round pick. So, adjust your mock drafts accordingly, Shane.
Yeah, I know. It, of course, happened the night I released my mock draft. So, I still made the swap of picks. I just didn't. Luckily, they were both offensive tackles, so it worked out.
Yeah, that's always good. So, speaking of the week one of the NFL, there was some shocking numbers came across that board. I know ourselves, we really don't want to talk about, what our teams did in week one. So we don't need to bring that up. But I think the biggest story had to be the beating that Dallas put on the Giants right on Sunday Night Football.
I think a lot of people thought the Giants at home had a good chance of that game. Right, this is a playoff team, won a playoff game against the Vikings last year. You like Brian Daboll as a coach, but yeah, I mean they looked bad all around. The Giants just could not hack it. Didn't have the offensive firepower and weapons, and the defense could not hold up. So that was surprising that it was over so quickly and such a blowout. I don't think the Giants are done. I don't think they're going to be awful. Like I think that's going to look much worse. We're going to look back and be like, how did they lose 40-0 week one, right, at the end of the season? I think we'll feel that way. But, yeah, I mean, after paying Daniel Jones, you expected better.
Let me say with that game, because I thought about this last year, and after Monday or Sunday night, it's even more in my brain. Did you, as an evaluator, see the type of pass rush that Micah Parsons could bring to the NFL that he has? Did you see that when he was coming out? Because I didn't.
Well, the reason is he wasn't used in that way at Penn State. I mean, he played more of an off-ball linebacker role for them, so we really didn't get to see him, off the edge rushing the passer. It was just that athleticism that he has was so explosive and so good. It's almost, I think the Cowboys saw him in camp. It was like, this guy is our best pass rusher. Like, how do we not utilize him there and kind of move him around in a way where he can do everything? So no, I had him graded very high because of the athleticism, and there was talks that was a real possibility that he could kind of do everything. I think you saw the athletic ability, like, okay, this guy his first step is incredible. How does Penn State not, have him rushing the passer if that's the case? But we didn't get to really see that on film in college.
Any other week one observations other than Kadarius Toney ain't it?
I mean, at least he caught a pass. Guy Moore was dropping passes, didn't even catch one. So, I mean, I think some of those big losses to big teams that we know are going to be good. The Chiefs, we talked about the Bills losing to the Jets after that Aaron Rodgers injury. Let me say one note for me was Jordan Love was exceptional for the Packers. It was the Bears. I didn't expect the Bears defense isn't anything great. We'll see. But, former first-round pick at quarterback, I think a lot of people had cast away that he's no good because he never started when Aaron Rodgers was there. But now they changed the system to work with him. And I thought what we saw last year was good, and I thought this game he was exceptional. I don't think he's going to be Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, but I think Jordan Love is maybe could be a really, really good quarterback in the NFL.
If Jordan Love continues his ascension that he's having right now, could the 2020 quarterback class end up being the best one probably since 2004?
I think it'd have to be, right? I can't think of another class that would.
I can't think of another one that has 4 first-round quarter, and then 5 if you want to extend it into Jalen Hurts, right? So that's pretty. I mean, that could end up being one of the better quarterback classes of all time. I mean, going all the way back to the '83 class, that's so revered. If you can see the success continue for Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts, and then now add in Jordan Love if he continues to progress.
Yeah, it gets kind of crazy because I think even if Love and Tua are, above average starters like they are now, I would say, I still think it contends for that because, Burrow, Herbert, and Hurts, top 6 quarterbacks in the NFL right now, this year. I think maybe even that's being a little safe. Like they could be all top 5 QBs with Mahomes and Allen. So, it might already kind of even be there, even without Tua and Love breaking out, who both those guys had 2 of the best week 1 games too.
Yeah. So, last thing on week 1 and in the same game there, Justin Fields. Where are you at on him right now?
Maybe stupidly, I still have faith. Like it's not great, and I like that they adjusted the offense for him, but they didn't give him one called run play. Every run he had was a scramble, which to me is bonkers. When you have maybe definitely a top 3 rushing quarterback in the NFL right now, they didn't even use him like that, and then you're not setting up for passing success. Just without the experience of throwing the ball and the coaching staff to back him up, like it's going to be, I think, a hard road to climb. I still feel like he has talent. Like he has some passes that you're like, wow, that's it. But that's not enough in the NFL. So I'm still holding out hope. But I think he's at least the 3rd best quarterback in that class, I guess. And even if he flops, I still want to say he's probably better than Mac Jones, even if Mac Jones lasts forever.
Yeah, I don't know. I was hoping above hope that he would be better by now, but does not seem to be heading in that direction, does it?
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I'm gonna give his Bears team some time, and with DJ Moore and with some newer weapons. But the Chase Claypool trade was awful. He looked awful in that game, so I think it's just rough going.
Yeah, Roshan Johnson though
got some good garbage time. I hope they start him. I think he's the best running back they have.
You're just saying that because you probably own a lot of shares.
I own so many Roshan Johnson shares in fantasy. It's not even funny. Redraft, dynasty, whatever. So.
All right, let's look back at week 2 of college football. We each watched 4 games officially last week. So each week when we do this, we single out an offense and a defensive player that we both liked in the games that we watched. And for me, both of my players that I liked are going to – because the 3 games I watched on Saturday weren't great. But the game on Friday, Kansas and Illinois, start with my offensive player, Jalen Daniels. Looks like he picked up right where he left off before the injury last year. And you saw the highlight. I know you saw it on Twitter at least, where Jerzon Newton, who had 2 sacks in this game, and we're going to get to him in just a second, bearing down on him. He just makes him miss in the open field and just throws a laser beam down the field, completes deep pass. And he had a great game for the Jayhawks on Friday. So he was my best offensive player I saw this week.
All right, how high do you think he could go in the draft? I think he's this is his 4th year, so he could stay. He probably will.
I assume he'll stay.
Right. But even we're talking 25, what do you think's the ceiling for him, for Jalen Daniels?
Tough to say. I say if he continues to progress as a passer, to go with his athleticism, I think he could get into the first-round conversation in 25. When the quarterback class potentially isn't as deep, right? Because I think we're definitely going to talk about the 24 quarterback class here a little bit later. But I think that's a spot that, with a good all-star game, go through the motions. I think, he could, get his way into the first round talk.
Yeah.
Not this year, though.
Right. Yeah, we can handle. But I think it's interesting. I think Anthony Richardson going top 5 just ruined quarterback evaluation for the draft, right? Because you can always be like, well, this guy could, he has the arm, he has the athleticism. But I think Jalen Daniels, like you said, has shown some of itself. He's interesting. He's tough for me. He's a tough one to evaluate.
Shane, rarely do we talk about skill players in this segment, but you're going to talk about one here for your offensive player of the week.
Yeah, look, I could have went Texas, upsetting Oklahoma. It was a great game, so could have went Quinn Ewers, could have went Xavier Worthy. I think they were kind of low-hanging fruit. So I'm going with Joe Alt, the left tackle for Notre Dame against NC State. We don't often talk O-line in the offensive player of the week, but coming into the season with Olu Fashanu from Penn State coming back, I really questioned how's my evaluation of Joe Alt. I've had him as the number one offensive tackle, I think, since coming into college for this draft, or at least top three. Have I been kind of sticking to my priors and watching this game? I don't think so. You just see the athleticism. I think he had one false start penalty, and that was like the only negative play I graded him on. Just such a smooth athlete at 6'7". He's moving and has that long reach that, like, man, I don't even think any NC State edge rusher got two hands on him, like was even able to get close enough to try to rip through him or bull rush him. That's just how much the footwork and the handwork really went together with that athleticism. So, I think Joe Alt from Notre Dame is a potential top 5 pick, along with Olu Fashanu from Penn State. Those two left tackles. This is a really, really athletic and good offensive tackle class as well. A lot of teams need them. So I think we're going to see a lot go in the first round.
That's a fact. The best defense player I saw this week, again, was from that game Friday night, and it was Illinois defensive lineman Jazon Newton, a guy who I think is a first-round talent as an interior pass rusher. Great size, great move, pass rush move set. Had 6 tackles in the game against Kansas, 4 solos, and he sacked Jalen Daniels twice. Everybody saw the one he didn't get, but they obviously didn't see the other pressures that he, had on Newton all night long, or Daniels all night long. So just Jazon Newton, my defensive player of the week.
I feel like he's getting left behind. Like, people are kind of ignoring Jazon Newton after he had a lot of hype going into the last draft and went back to school. But yeah, I think he's a phenomenal, athlete, interior pass rusher. Maybe the best interior pass rusher in this defensive line class to me.
Yeah, it's a very, very good possibility. And I think he's a guy that, because of that gets lost in the shuffle. I think he's a guy that ends up down here in Mobile. And, that buzz starts picking up and then one-on-ones, down here, kind of like some others did, like Keanu Benton and everyone did last year. So anxious to see how that, or Javon Kinlaw is another name that comes to mind that had the big week at the Senior Bowl and with the interior pass rush. And Newton could have that kind of week down here and get into that first round conversation. I mentioned earlier, Shane, is Miami back?
Yeah, look, they might be back. They beat Texas A&M this week, a big upset, 48-33. The U and Texas, they might both be back. They even had some guys on the offensive side that I was considering. Tyler Van Dyke looked great.
We will talk about him a little bit later.
We were hyping him up last year. But my defensive player of the week does come from that game, does come from Miami. It's Cameron Kinchins, safety from the University of Miami. He was all over the field in this game. I mean, when there was a tackle made or even just an assist, it seemed like Kinchins was there. First quarter, he had a big kind of hit, knocking a receiver out of bounds, jawing at the guy, and then the receiver dropped like 2 passes after that. It was kind of like the old Miami, like, we're going to intimidate you. And they were intimidating, an SEC school that's had success. Was really surprising to me. I mean, Kinchins had an interception in the game, almost returned it for a touchdown. Good size, 6', 205, really nice agility, sideline to sideline work. I mean, he read and reacted much better than I remember from last season. I was kind of low on him coming into the year. I think I had him lower than a lot of mock drafts did, but he's converting me here into a real believer. Another class that I think is very good is the safety class, and I'm interested to see how that shakes down with that position not being as valued in the NFL recently.
Yeah. How many times we're going to call him Kitchens?
I know. I almost did it right there when I said it. But yeah, Kinchins. I got to get that down.
One more player I want to talk about that neither one of us watched, but I'm going to bring him up because I love a running back that catches the football. And anytime you have a running back that sets the NCAA record for most pass receiving yards in a game, I got to bring it up. It's Dylan Laub from New Hampshire this is against an FBS opponent now, against Central Michigan. Laub had 12 catches for 298 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I saw some of the highlights on Twitter, and I was like, he's got some speed too. So this could be a fun little prospect to track throughout this process.
Well, he's been in my mock draft since the spring. So, if you've been reading all 7 rounds of my mocks, I think I've tossed him in there in the 6th, 7th round, my RB26. Yeah, I mean, fast, but he's built. He's not like a small $190 guy. He's more 210 type of running back, but shorter. So he's got kind of that bowling ball type of mentality. I didn't think he was the receiver that this game showed. So I haven't watched it yet, but I'm excited to go back and see, and maybe he'll really vault up these rankings here.
It's the most eye-opening running back receiving line I've seen since David Johnson against when he was at Northern Iowa against Iowa, where he had like 200 receiving yards and like 7 or 8 catches in that game. And this is just way above that. I mean, he also had 30 yards rushing and a touchdown in the game as well, but that's an afterthought. And he also has kick and punt return ability. So
that's he's going to get drafted.
He's going to get drafted, right?
Receiving, special teams, like he's going to get drafted above guys.
He's probably going to run into 4 or 5s. He's going to have a good all-star game, wherever that may be, either in Mobile or in Frisco. And he's going to end up getting drafted probably in the 4th, 5th round. And he's going to make a roster.
Yeah.
All right. Let's look ahead now to week 3. We've got 8 more games this week. Shane, starting on Friday night, 6 p.m. on FS1, I'll be watching Virginia and Maryland. And I don't think either one of these programs are all that great this year, especially Virginia, who got beat by James Madison last week and was a 6-point underdog. They actually covered the spread.
They were winning the whole game too, I was hoping.
But the mere fact that they were a touchdown underdog to a Sun Belt team tells you all you need to know about Virginia's state of their program right now. Maryland in this game, I really want to watch Yedzi, the transfer up from D2, Frostburg State, the offensive tackle. I want to watch him. I don't think Talia Tungavailoa is going to be in the mix here of draftable quarterbacks when it's all said and done, but I think he ends up in a camp. So the receiving talent, a little bit there this year for Maryland. Deshaun Jones, probably the top receiver there, but a lot of their guys went away.
Yeah, it's good. Hopefully we get to see Desi. He hasn't played yet. I don't know if it's been coach's decision or he's not a starter, but I know he has not played a snap for Maryland yet. So I'm hoping, the rumor is you'll get to see him, that he's going to play this week. So, it's interesting. I love Roman Hemby, their running back for Maryland. I'm a big fan. I think he has day 2 potential, maybe 2025. He's only a 3rd-year player. And Caden Prather, their transfer from West Virginia, who you mentioned. I wish Virginia was better. What they went through last year was really tough. And so, I was hoping for a good year for them. I like Chico Bennett, their edge rusher. I think maybe he has late round potential, but it's kind of rough going for their roster this year.
Yeah, they do have a couple solid edge prospects, so that's kind of why I was hoping to see Yedzi in this game to see how he fared. 11 a.m. on ESPNU, Shane, you'll be watching the Iowa State Cyclones traveling to Athens, Ohio to face the Ohio University, and they've got some nice skill prospects. I watched them earlier this year. Despite Curtis Rourke getting knocked out early in that game, I assume he's back now, so that's I assume the main evaluation for you in this game. But Sam Wiglusz, Wigglers.
Wigglers, yeah.
Wigglers is he's a solid receiver prospect. Does a great job getting open in the slot. And Cy Bangura, their running back, I thought was explosive in the game. The runs I saw against San Diego State earlier this year. Iowa State, not the talent pool that they've had in recent years, but there's a few. We should have taken Hunter Deckers off because he can't gamble properly off of our watch list here. But TJ Tampa, I think their corner, probably their best prospect.
Yeah, he's probably their best prospect. Pretty solid. I like Jalen Noel, their receiver, kind of deep threat player for them. He's intriguing. And Isaiah Lee, their defensive lineman, is pretty battle tested, solid kind of 3-tech in there.
There you go. 2:30 on ESPN, Shane, you'll be watching Minnesota and North Carolina. I believe this is the first time we've mentioned the Golden Gophers this year. Got a couple of good players there. Brevin Spann-Ford, their tight end. Chris Altman-Bell, seventh-year player at wide receiver. Somebody to watch. But I think their best player definitely has to be safety Tyler Nubin, right, for the Gophers. And, of course, we're not going to see Devontae Walker because the NCAA sucks in this one, but you will see Drake May.
Yeah, so, I mean, Drake May, maybe not the start we were hoping for, not really the big numbers as they're running the football more. So we'll see if he kind of bounces back. Minnesota has some good defensive prospects. You mentioned Nubin. I like Justin Whaley, their Whaley, their corner, I think is pretty good as well. So I'm interested to see him. And they have a couple offensive linemen that I think are like borderline draftable guys, have some run blocking ability. So we'll see if they've gotten better a little bit. North Carolina, a couple intriguing players. One guy who transferred to Coastal Carolina, their interior offensive lineman, Willie Lampkin, guard, kind of a light zone blocker, which fits North Carolina pretty well. They have a couple defensive players I like too. Miles Murphy, their defensive lineman, not the guy from Clemson that's in the NFL, but a different Miles Murphy. Power Eccles, their linebacker, I like a lot. So I think North Carolina has some talent. And I really want to see Desmond Evans, their edge rusher, 5-star prospect, super athlete that's just never put it together. One of those types. Sometimes those guys can come out of the woodwork, have a good year, and rise off the board. So I'm interested to see him.
I'm not sure if he put it together last week, but Kamon Rucker, their other edge player, sacked Spencer Rattler like 3 times in the opener. And you mentioned they've been running the ball more. Fully healthy now, British Brooks for North Carolina, solid in week 1 at least. I can't speak to what happened against App State.
Yeah, I think some of their 2 younger backs did most of that damage. So they have a ton of running backs there in North Carolina. I think it'll actually be a fun, close game, so I'm excited for it.
2:30 p.m. on CBS Saturday. I may or may not be watching this on CBS as Nexstar, the owner of our local CBS affiliate here in Mobile, and DirecTV are having a spat, so I may have to watch this one online. But regardless, I will watch it. South Carolina at Georgia. I'm just hoping it's close, Shane.
Yeah. Look, it's tough. Georgia has come out the gates pretty slow their first couple weeks. I don't think this is yet the same Georgia team we've seen the past 2 years. They can get there. They have the talent.
And by slow, they're averaging beating their first 2 opponents 47-5.
Right. But, slow for the first half, first quarter expectations. Right. They're not hitting that blowout right off the bat. So maybe you get lucky here. South Carolina has some talent.
The 2 things that I will talk about here with South Carolina that I am intrigued to see if it can continue is Spencer Rattler is currently completing 83% of his passes through his first 2 games. No interceptions. This is uncharted territory for Spencer Rattler as a quarterback prospect to actually be making sound decisions in the passing game. Can he continue that, or will the Georgia pressure force him into doing stupid things? The North Carolina, despite sacking him 9 times, he never threw an interception or forced any balls. Can that continue? We'll see. And Shane, do you know who the Power 5 leading receiving yardage person is?
I'm going to guess he's from South Carolina.
You are correct, sir. And it is Xavier Legette, fifth year wide receiver from South Carolina, who prior to last year's Gator Bowl was just a kick returner. He was very good at it, but it's just a kick returner. Now he's actually developed into a legit receiver who's going up, getting 50-50 balls, running great routes, making great catches. He leads Power 5, all Power 5 receivers in receiving yardage up to this point. We'll see what happens after Saturday. But where he actually has to go against, legit cornerbacks. So we'll see if that continues. But I'm more grasping at straws than hoping here. And we'll see. Because last year, Brock Bowers basically made every play that Brock Bowers made last year will be on his draft highlight film coming April.
Yeah, and look, you got to go up against maybe two potential first-round DBs and Kamari Lassiter, their top corner for Georgia, and Javon Bullard, their top safety, which is always tough. I mean, Georgia has multiple linebackers that are going to get drafted again. Jamon Dumas-Johnson's probably my favorite. And Nazir Stackhouse, the defensive lineman, hasn't done much yet, but I think he has NFL talent. So it might be a little tough going for South Carolina offense to keep that pass game flowing.
Yeah, you're probably right. But if Xavier Legette goes over 100 this week, Shane.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I'm going to need some acknowledgement from you next week.
I will pick him up in college fantasy if he goes for over 100 yards this week. Okay.
There we go. 3 p.m. on the SEC Network. I'll be watching UL Monroe at Texas A&M. Texas A&M coming off the loss to Miami. You would expect them to get back on the winning column this week. Obviously, the talent is there with the Aggies, but they are just, once again, underperforming this year on defense. The offense actually seems to be, doing a lot better with Bobby Petrino calling plays, or I think he's calling plays anyway. They do have a receiver that I'm anxious to see, and this is the main reason I chose this game is Tyrone Howell, the guy we talked about last year, came back, 6-year receiver, 6'2", 202. We'll see how he does against Texas A&M.
Yeah, and A&M has some good players. McKinley Jackson, their athletic defensive tackle, really good at getting to the quarterback, but has that nose tackle type size. I like Bryce Foster, their center, took a step back year 2, had a really good freshman season. I think he was kind of getting it back here against Miami, played pretty well. So it's interesting. And Ruben Fothery II, their offensive tackle, is potentially a first-round pick.
How did he do against Miami?
Up and down. It was very inconsistent. Maybe not what I would expect from a guy of his pedigree. So he dropped down my rankings a little bit, actually, after that game, down to 6th on the offensive tackle rankings, but maybe he can get it back here.
There you go. 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus. I'll be watching South Alabama at Oklahoma State. South Alabama, they've got talented players on the team this year. My favorite player on their team, probably running back LaDamian Webb. But I think the player that's probably going to be drafted the highest from this team is their safety, Yam Banks, if he enters the draft going forward. Oklahoma State talent way down this year. They're running a three quarterback rotation that includes Alan Bowman, who's played at Texas Tech and Michigan. Although I don't know if he's going to start this week or not. Probably the best player I think that they have is Brennan Presley, their slot receiver, 5'8", 175, is also a good punt returner.
Yeah, Oklahoma State's interesting. I think there's definitely some talent there, but then other positions on the defense and offense just don't have it, and it's been tough to evaluate. I like their edge rushers. I like Colin Oliver. I like Anthony Goodlow, but they haven't really done much. I like some of their receivers. You mentioned Brennan Presley. I like Deshaun Stribling, came over from Washington State. Jaden Bray's getting a lot of targets, but not really converting. So it's tough for me ultimately. But yeah, we'll see. See how South Alabama does. I think they could put up a good game. I wish we could see Devin Voisin, the receiver. He's out with a knee injury, but I really liked him.
Yeah, he's going to be out a little while, I believe. 6:30 p.m. on ESPN2, Shane, you will not get to see Rocket Sanders, the Arkansas running back, he's going to be out this week, so that kind of sucks. Was hoping to get to see him against BYU's linebackers, who are plentiful and good, like Ben Bywater. I think one of the maybe a top 10 linebacker in this class. Who else are you looking at in this game? What other matchups intrigue you here?
Yeah, I want to see the Arkansas O-line against BYU's pass rushers and linebackers. Bo Limmer, their center, is very intriguing. Has kind of some of that power. He's played guard, has played center. Ricky Stromberg last year, they kind of worked together in tandem. So I'm interested in that. I like John Morgan III, the edge rusher that came over from Pitt. But yeah, I was hoping to see Rocket Sanders go up against BYU. And BYU is probably kind of flipped as well. Kingsley Suam-Taiaya was on the freak list for Bruce Feldman. Definitely a potential first-round offensive tackle in his own scheme, probably their best prospect.
And they also have another massive offensive tackle on the right side, Caleb Etienne. So going against some decent pass rushers with Arkansas, Zach Williams, Trajan Jeffcoat, the transfer from Missouri, and John Morgan III. So Eric Gregory, they've got a decent edge rotation there in Arkansas. So anxious to see how those BYU tackles handle that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. BYU is probably not going to be able to hold up, but we'll see.
9:30 p.m. on Fox Sports 1, Shane, you'll be watching Fresno State at Arizona State. And speaking of talent deficient, I think that applies with Arizona State. There's some solid players here, but not in great numbers. Same thing with Fresno State, where I think the top players probably Jalen Gill, maybe linebacker LaVale Bailey.
Yeah. Fresno is kind of reloading, has some young players. The offense is still clicking. I think Arizona State's kind of a similar spot. They have a lot of young guys, true freshmen. Jaden Rashada starting. I like Jalen Conyers, their tight end, is athletic. I got some crap for ranking him very highly as a freshman and sophomore when he didn't play. Now he's turning into an NFL prospect. He's intriguing. We'll see kind of what happens from there. But Xavier Guillory is another guy, the receiver for Arizona State, transferred from Idaho State. He's been putting up some good numbers, been kind of the go-to receiver for them. I liked him at Idaho State. I think it's an intriguing transfer up as well.
All right, so that's going to do it for week 3. That's almost going to do it for week 3, Shane, because we've now got to tell the people how to win money, as we both hit last week.
Yeah.
Both of our locks hit. I had Wake Forest cover the spread against Vandy. You had Cal covering against Auburn. So probably should have won that game, to be honest.
I was hoping for the Monday.
3 missed field goals and a fumble recovery that got taken off the board because the refs blew the whistle too soon. That was early in the first quarter. So yeah, Cal probably should have beat Auburn there, but they did not.
That's so fine. Shane, they covered. That's all.
They did cover. So Shane, I'm going to go with a MAC road underdog here, and I'm basically basing this on the fact that Brian Ferentz's offense at Iowa, I'm not sure they can score 29 points at all. And they're favored currently on FanDuel by 28.5 points over the Western Michigan Broncos. So I am going to take WMU row the boat, or they used to row the boat anyway. They don't row the boat anymore. But I'm going to take
does now, baby.
I'm going to take Western Michigan here plus 28.5 on the road at Iowa. What do you think about that one, Shane?
Yeah, look, I think it's intriguing. Iowa's offense does have to really lay the egg. I think that's really what it comes down to is, can they run the ball and score? Do they run enough clock? So very, very intriguing.
If Western Michigan scores a touchdown in this game, I feel very good.
I think they'll score a touchdown. I think they have a good enough offense. Jalen Buckley, their starting running backs, look good. So I have faith they'll score a touchdown.
Shane, who do you got here? Who's your lock of the week?
Well, we're similar in a lot of ways. I'm going with another big dog against a Big Ten team. I'm going to take Georgia Southern plus 19.5 at Wisconsin. Wisconsin had an awful loss last week, which I think maybe kind of sets them back a little bit. Washington State beat them. So they're coming back home. But I think Georgia Southern is highly underrated. This is one of the best offenses. Brian Ellis, their offensive coordinator, is really good. Davis Brin, their quarterback, is experienced. They have Derwin Burgess and Caleb Hood at receiver, Jalen White at running back. It's a pretty stacked offense. Wisconsin's still learning their system. Can they really win by 3 touchdowns in this game? I don't think so. I think Georgia Southern's going to put up enough points that they can keep it fairly close, not win, but they're going to score some points here. So I like Georgia Southern as a team this year in the Sun Belt.
There you go. I do like a good Sun Belt pick.
Yeah.
Shane. So Shane goes Georgia Southern plus 19.5 at Wisconsin. I go Western Michigan plus 28.5 at Iowa. Everybody go ahead and get that money this week on those 2 bets. Lock them in.
Lock them in.
All right, Shane. I wrote something today talking about the potential of the 2024 NFL draft quarterback class. So I did a little research going back, and we're going to call it the modern draft era, which I'm saying started in 1993 when the draft cut to 7 rounds. So going back to 1993, the most quarterbacks taken in a draft class was 17. And that was in, I can't remember what year it was. But anyway, the point is here, do you think the depth in this class and the need for cheap quarterbacks can get over the number 17 in 2024?
I do not. I think your piece was good. I think it's super interesting because I do think there are a lot of names in this class. I think we're still in a problematic time where everyone can go back to school. And I think everyone goes back to school, right? Like, I think that's what happens. If you're not going to be a first round pick, I don't think you come out if you don't have to. I think that's what the quarterback position has become in the NFL draft after COVID. So I think when you talk about talent, like you did in your article, do I think there are 17 draftable talents eligible in this class? More than that? Absolutely. 100%. And I think, but I think a lot of them are not going to come out ultimately because the first round bar is really high for quarterbacks, higher than I think we always think it is looking in. Neither of us liked Will Levis, right? Like, neither of us really liked Will Levis all that much. Didn't think he was a first round talent, but he was getting pumped as a first round talent. He couldn't, cut it. So that's just my kind of thought. I think it could be high. Like, I think you could get close this season, especially with some teams that need backups, and the backup quarterback play in the NFL is awful. I think I agree with your premise there, but I think a lot of the names, the Shadur Sanders, the JJ McCarthy's, even the Riley Leonards, like I don't think they're going to be in this draft.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought as well. But I was also just kind of like going on the maybe sure. They all end up in there. I think that, and as I said in here, the 2 we can lock in will be Caleb Williams and Drake May. You can lock them in. They're top 5 picks, right? As of today, yeah, they're top 5 picks.
They're getting drafted,
right?
So,
but and some of these other guys, I presume they're out of eligibility, like Bo Nix. I don't think he can go back.
I don't think he will go back. I don't think it's worth even looking into. I agree. I think he'll come out. He will get drafted at some point.
I'm with you on Shadur Sanders. I think he stays at least one more year, if for no other reason to finish up with Travis Hunter, because he's going to be one more and done. He's not going to be there beyond his 3rd year. Riley Leonard, I don't know, because I would have said before the season started, I think Riley Leonard stays in school another year. But now I think his hype is starting to get enough buzz that he may end up entering the draft, especially if he's going to be the 3rd quarterback off the board.
He was not a good pass. He did not throw the ball well against Clemson. Like, it was a bad game from an NFL draft perspective. It was a bad passing game for him. And, like, if he would have excelled in that game, throwing the football, I would have said, yeah, this is the top 50 pick guy, because I think that was where the hype was kind of going. There's been some talk that he is looking at coming out, that there is NFL interest. I think the rest of the season really determines that for him.
What about Quinn Ewers? Where are you at with him?
I think he is that typical, like, if what he did against Alabama, if he does that all season, he's going to be a top 10 pick. And then he'll come out. And if he doesn't, he won't be a first-round pick. And he probably goes back to school, maybe even transfers right from Texas. Like, I think those are kind of the two options. It's like he's either going to go in, like, the top 20, or maybe a Will Levis gets overhyped and goes in the top 50, or he goes back to school.
So you're on record saying this is his last year in Texas.
I mean, I just, if you're Texas, I don't know what you promised Arch Manning, but it can't be sitting for 2 years behind Quinn Ewers.
You're not a JJ McCarthy guy at all. I know you're not.
I'm not. He's played really well so far. Like, I mean, Michigan hasn't played anybody yet, so I don't know. But I like ECU and UNLV isn't in Bowling Green now, and then Rutgers and Nebraska, like, not really instilling confidence. But I mean, I don't see a world where JJ McCarthy is a top 15 pick lock, right? Like, and then if you're not, are you going to risk it and declare? I think as a third-year quarterback, I just don't know if you do that.
I have a feeling, and I'm just going to call my shot now, these next four names I'm going to mention will all be in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. They will be 4 of the 6 quarterbacks in Mobile. Michael Penix Jr. from Washington, Jordan Travis from Florida State, Spencer Rattler from South Carolina, and Tyler Van Dyke from Miami. I think they all entered the draft. They all play in the Senior Bowl.
You have more faith than I do that they all enter the draft.
Well, Rattler's out of eligibility, I believe.
Yeah, I mean he might be.
I know Penix is.
Penix is. But I mean, Jordan Travis, I think, is year 4. He definitely has another year. If they don't win a national championship, you come back, try to win one. If you're him, yeah. I mean, you're not going to be a first-round pick. I think he's better than people are giving him credit for. But, like, I don't think he's going to be a lock. Van Dyke, very similarly. Like, what does he have to do to get in the top 100? Is it worth going back to school if you're a third-round pick like Bo Nix? You're a third-round pick, go back to school, try to become a first-round pick. I mean, I think that's what these two guys do.
I could ultimately see with Van Dyke, if he plays like he has in the first 2 games under Shannon Dawson, the offensive coordinator, I mean, it's a complete night and day from what it was under Josh Gattis. How bad are you as offensive coordinator, Josh Gattis, that you couldn't uncork this talent as an offensive coordinator? That's awful. And Shannon Dawson's come in this year in these first 2 games, and Tyler Van Dyke looks like a world beater. He looks like he did as a redshirt freshman. And that intrigued the talent that intrigued us to all put him in the top 10 of our way too early mock drafts last year. And then he just fell off the planet. But I think if Van Dyke, maybe Shannon Dawson gets a head coaching gig, and then Van Dyke's like, yeah, I'm not going through this again. Let me go.
Well, if Shannon Dawson gets a head coaching gig, if I'm Tyler Van Dyke, guess where I'm playing next year?
There you go.
You know what I mean? Like, let me go there. I think that's the tough part. And if all these players come out, then they're not first round picks, right? Like, that's why I don't think Shedeur Sanders comes out, even if he's super hyped. It's like, well, I could be Caleb Williams next year, right? Like, why declare now? Why do that? So it's intriguing because, like you said, I think the talents are there, but I think in general, and we've seen this in college football, in general, the first 2, 3, 4 weeks, the quarterback numbers are bonkers. It happened last year, and then they all fell off in conference play, and it's going to happen again. So I think we just got to pump the brakes a little bit.
There are some other intriguing names out there, like Austin Reed from Western Kentucky is a guy I personally like. Joe Milton from Tennessee on arm alone will get drafted. I don't know that he should be.
It's been rough. It's been rough so far this year. I mean, he was struggling against Charleston, I think, for a while last week.
I think KJ Jefferson from Arkansas is intriguing as a player. I'd want to see more from him. And the same thing with Cameron Ward from Washington State, transferred up last year from Incarnate Ward. Incarnate Word, he's been solid for Wazoo there, and was one of the main reasons they got the dub Saturday night against Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think he's another one that comes back. If you're Cam Ward, like keep it going as long as you can. But no, I think the other names, I think Austin Reed is draftable for sure. I think KJ Jefferson, if a team likes that size and athleticism combo, right, that's kind of a late round dart, maybe an undrafted kind of dart. But you have some other names on here too that I think is like Sean Clifford got drafted, right. Oh, okay.
And now he's actually quarterback 2 for Green Bay. How did that happen?
Like he fits that system just really well. Sometimes that's what it takes, Weird.
But these other 6 names I have here that I'm fixing to read off are all guys that at one point or another have been hyped up as potential high quarterback draft picks at one point. Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina. Really wish he would have gotten into a real offense. We'll see. I'm actually going to watch them. It's not this next week. I think it's next week or week. I'm actually going to watch to see how that's going. Jaden Daniels from LSU. Sam Hartman now at Notre Dame. You thought he looked good in the opener against Navy. You saw him again last
NC
week.
State. Yeah, he was good again.
Yeah.
So
and you're going to see him again next week
against Ohio State. Well, and then I'm done with Notre Dame for the year. That's it. I'm done.
You'll have your report written on Sam Hartman by then.
Yeah, right.
Devin Leary was at NC State, now at Kentucky. Dylan Gabriel has been good this year for Oklahoma after transferring from UCF 2 years ago. And Michael Pratt at Tulane. Maybe they beat Ole Miss last week if Pratt plays. He looked great against South Alabama in the opener and then ends up getting hurt right towards the end of the game and was unable to play this past Saturday.
And you have 2 schools missing whose quarterbacks haven't played well so far, but always get drafted in the first round, right? Ohio State and Alabama. So Kyle McCord and Jalen Milroe, 30-year players. I don't think either of them have played like draftable picks.
I don't think either one of them is going to come out either.
Right.
But yes.
But if we're like, okay, shoot for the moon. I think it will take maybe a record-setting first round of quarterbacks for it to happen. Right. I mean, we need like 6-7 quarterbacks going in the first round.
The record is 6, and that was in '83. Yeah, and I talked about that in the article where, and in that class you had 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, Elway, Kelly, and Marino go, and then the other 3, not so much. Ken O'Brien was okay, but Todd Blackledge, much better as a commentator than he was an NFL football player, and Tony Eason was awful, although he did start in a Super Bowl, famously for getting murdered in a Super Bowl, but he did start in a Super Bowl. So,
yikes. Yeah.
So,
it's a good article. Check it out on the Draft Guide. It's a good article.
I know on a record-setting number of quarterbacks from Shane, and I don't disagree with that at all. Did we get any questions on Twitter? We did not. We got none on Discord, or did we get some on Discord?
Get anything?
We did not. The only thing I have on Discord was Cade McNamara's his conversation that he had
press conference this week. Worth looking up. We won't repeat.
Yeah.
We won't quote him
just Google Cade McNamara press conference. And Cade McNamara, by the way, not one of the quarterbacks that I think has a chance to get drafted in 2024.
No, that Iowa quarterback doesn't usually work out too well. So,
no, is he better than Spencer Petras?
Yes.
Low bar,
but
it's a very low bar,
and he's not clearing it by much. But
final thoughts on everything draft related this week, Shane?
Yeah, look, I'm just excited to keep things going. After this week, I'm going to work on updating my big board and getting that my positional rankings. I kind of update each week, so definitely check those out at Draft Countdown.
Yep. We got some good rookie conversation coming up on Friday. Pigskin Paul going to be breaking down all the rookies and how or the top rookie performances from week one. Brad's going to be talking about one of those quarterbacks we just talked about and the draft profile of Jalen Milroe. He's going to look at him. Last week he looked at Shadur Sanders. This week Jalen Milroe. So check that out on Draft Countdown. That's going to do it for tonight's episode of the podcast. As always, if you're new to the channel, please hit that like button and subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you get notified when you go live. If you listen to this on an audio platform, be it Spotify, be it Apple Podcasts, or be it whatever, however you listen to it, please give us a 5-star review on one of those deals and share it out. Let us know what you thought of it. And always comment on the videos too if you want. Brad's doing a great job putting up these shorts and everything. That's been going well. So that you want to subscribe to that so you can see all those cool things as well, and follow us on Instagram as well. Those are all going up there, and Facebook. So follow me on Twitter at Deep Fried Draft. Follow Shane at Shane P. Howell. Follow Draft Countdown at Draft Countdown, and go to draftcountdown.com for all of your daily NFL draft needs. For Shane, I'm Brian. Good night, everybody.